drop the gavel.
Check 1 2 2. Check.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order here on March 18th, our regular meeting of the Board of Education, calling our meeting to order at 7:31. Sorry, 6:31. Dropped the gavel, got the time wrong.
All right.
It's Tuesday. It's the week before spring break. Giving myself grace. All right, Mr. Jones, I'm turning it over to you.
For the pledge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, board, thank you for having us. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's taken me about 9 years to actually figure out where to actually place this slide in the deck, and I think I got it right this time. So, guys, I'm going to hand out mics if you want to be our leaders. There we go. On 1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And don't go too far away because we're going to be getting back to the student-centered version here in a second. Oh, wait, I'm going too fast.
Yeah, before you move ahead, we got to do our roll call. All right, I will, let's see. Would you like to be secretary tonight?
I can do that.
Okay, I'll pass it over to Ms. Stewart.
Okay, President McIntyre.
Here.
Vice President Campbell-Voitel.
Here.
Treasurer Stewart here. Secretary Meyer is going to be absent tonight.
Mr. Frazier is running late tonight.
Okay. Trustee Mabry. Here. And Trustee Maurer.
Here. Okay, great. All right, next let's move to our adoption of the agenda. I will pass it over to Dr. Campbell-Voitel.
Yes, Madam Secretary, I would like to bring motion 91 that the agenda be adopted as presented. Support.
Okay, I have a motion properly presented by Dr. Campbell-Voitel, supported by Ms. Maurer. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on. We're moving on to our consent resolutions.
Right. So I would like to bring motion 92 that the board accept the consent items for approval as presented. 5A, minutes of March 11, 2025 board meeting. 5B, minutes of March 11, 2025 closed session meeting of the Board of Education. 5C, overnight and out-of-state field trips 1, Robostangs World Championship in Houston, Texas from April 16 through 19, 2025. 2, NHS Travelin' Mustangs trip to Amsterdam, Brussels, Paris, and London from June 13th through 24th, 2025. And 3, NHS Girls Cross Country Team Camp in Maple City, Michigan from August 16 through 18, 2025.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion properly presented by Dr. Campbell-Voitel, supported by Ms. Stewart. Our consent agenda items are items that the board has previously seen or discussed, just basically routine in nature. Let's go ahead with a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. And next we have our communications. Can you handle that for us, Mr.
I
Thank you.
can. All right. We have received and had a chance to review emails that came into npsboe@northvilleschools.org.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Jones, turning it over to you.
All right, now I'm back. Well, I wanted to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to present. This is always that time of the year, which is a little bit of apprehension and a lot more pride, where we get to kind of show off what our teachers and our kids are doing each year. So I'm going to kick off a little bit with our kind of our roadmap, so you know what we're covering this evening. So we're going to begin with Mrs. Banchero, who will take us through our PTSA update, let you know what that school and community partnership looks like this year. We'll hand it over to Ms. Moffett at that point for our student leadership overview, and the kids can kind of take you through some of the work that they've been doing. And then we will finish with our building thinking classrooms in mathematics and what that looks like this year, but this is certainly not a single year effort. So, Mrs. Benchero.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight so I can present a little about the PTSA. Before I get started, I did want to just extend on behalf of Hillside's PTSA a thank you to our Board of Education and all you do for us. We have provided you with some cookies and bought several books on behalf of each of you that will go to the Hillside Library. We decided to present it to you tonight as opposed to January. Otherwise, the books travel all around the district to come right back here. So thank you. Real quick, I'm just going to give you an overview of what we do here at Hillside. And the big thing, there are two big things at the top, Carnival and teacher grants. And we very much enjoy spending money and spending your money to give back to the teachers, which go back to the classrooms. So that's a big portion of what we do. We also provide daily planners for all the students. We support the Reflections program, staff appreciation, classroom technology, grounds beautification. You might have noticed when you came up on the hill, like the hillside looks beautiful. And then unified activities, which is near and dear to my heart, but we've really got that going here at middle school thanks to the community and the staff. So this year alone, we awarded over $20,000 in teacher grants that include a lot of STEM activities. There were technology programs such as quizzing and things that kids can do interactive in class. A few years ago, you can see on that slide, we had a harp for our music program, which is wonderful. That was actually under Ms. Stewart's reign as president. We have an esports team. You can see the silent disco, which we've had 2 years. And this year we were actually able to partner with the high school and NEF to provide headphones that are used in the silent disco so that they'll be used between the high school and the middle school. And the school store we supply for that. Some more things we've done is last year we were able to provide rowing machines and stationary bikes for the gym. This is great for kids who maybe aren't as inclined athletically. Someone like myself who is not very good at hitting a baseball bat or playing soccer. And it also opens the door for the kids in the cross-categorical and ASD classrooms here. We've supplied library books on behalf or in honor of the board, and also for all reading levels, as you can see in that picture. We have kids that maybe who can't read at all the reading typical 6th through 8th grade curriculum. And basketball hoops outdoor for recess. So if you go across 8 Mile there and you're at the platform, you'll see there's some basketball hoops, and those are huge. Like the kids love those. We've also supplied some 3D printers, worked on a school-wide Be Nice program. There are wellness corner materials just kind of for kids, maybe fidgets and things when they're working and they're getting anxious to help calm them down. The Women's Leadership Summit, we have supported the past several years, and that's a great opportunity for middle schoolers to go off to, usually it's in Grand Rapids, and learn more about secondary principles and sort of the leadership. And let's see what else here. I think I got through most of those. A lot of art supplies. And that kind of concludes what we here at the PTSA at Hillside do. We enjoy working with all of you, and if there's anything you think, hey, this would be kind of neat for the PTSA, send it our way. And of course, our big event is the Carnival on May 27th, and because of that, we're able to provide all those grants and stipends that we do for the teachers. So thank you. We'll turn that back over to Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much. And I will hold the mic for all of about 30 seconds as I introduce Ms. Kelly Moffett, who stepped in about a month or so ago as our new interim assistant principal. So she's kind of come in blazing and embraced all of those challenges that are inherent to that job in the first place, let alone doing it kind of in mid-year while also supporting a long-term guest teacher in her classroom. So, Ms. Moffat.
Thank you. I'm super excited to see you all tonight. My little bit is short and brief because I have only been working with these student leaders for the last 3 weeks, and I'm really excited for them to show you what they've been doing all year and what they have planned because their ideas are just absolutely amazing. So without another second to waste, Student Council, would you like to make your way up here? So we're going to start with the 8th grade Student Council. And then you guys could just go that way.
Hello, everyone. Like she already said, I'm part of the 8th grade student council. My name is Connor Quaid. I'm treasurer, and this is.
Nico Gallia, vice president.
And just a couple things we've been working on. So far, we've done, we've had a candy cane fundraiser that we use partly for student council to fund our activities and partly donated to a children's hospital. We also used the money we raised to fund our Bonaventure event. We also had a canned food drive that we donated to Civic Concern and had multiple student leadership events, as we had a middle level liftoff event in Frankenmuth and an MASSP Women's Summit in Grand Rapids.
I'm Nico Gallia, and for 8th grade student council, we have been working on the 8th grade dance, and this will take place on May 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be food, music, and activities for the kids that attend.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Adam. I'm with Emma, our vice president, and Christian, our president of 7th grade student council. We have about 17 members, and we've been working hard all year to better our school. We look forward to finishing up the year strong. So without further ado, Christian is gonna kind of explain what we've done so far this year.
Hi, my name is Christian Purvine, and what we've done in student council so far is amazing. So far we've done the Women's Summit, which was amazing, and it was for the girls in student council to learn more about what their job is and to become better people. And we had the middle grade liftoff, which was in Frankenmuth, and it was an amazing time, and we got to learn from other student councils. And then we had a Bonaventure skating party, which I think did very well. And then we had candy cane sales, which for the candy cane sales, for the money, which was donated to hospitals, and we kept some of it for a thing that we picked. Now,
Okay. Some of the things that we learned during the Women's Summit was how to control our emotions, how to set boundaries to protect and connect with others. Then we also learned about mental health as something you can use to help yourself and to have confidence in yourself. Some things that were valuable, or we learned about the power of communication. We learned about helping one another. We learned also about the value of friendship and the values of compromise.
so when I said about the candy cane sales, this is what we did, and this is what our team agreed on. So it's going to be on the plateau, and it's going to be for an hour 30 or 2 hours, and it's going to have Kona Ice, class games, and the plateau. The goal is for the students to have an enjoyable time and to eat Kona Ice, and it's sunny, so it's going to be a great time. So yeah. The 6th grade.
So we're 6th grade student council. The members are me, Scarlett, and I'm the vice president.
I'm Vaishnavi, and I'm secretary. I'm Shadi and I'm the president.
And like all the other ones are the general members. So what we've done this year is we've gone to a senior center and gave cards to them. We've sold candy canes, and some of the money that was from that went to Mott's Hospital. And we've also done various different food drives throughout the year.
What we're looking forward to is hosting a movie celebration for the entire 6th grade. We're planning on doing it during the last 2 hours of the day. We're going to clear out the cafeteria. Kids can bring blankets and pillows. We're going to provide snacks, and we just hope that everyone has a fun time.
Thanks for listening, and yeah.
So that was our student council. Ooh, loud, sorry. And now have the honor of introducing our Be Nice group, and they're going to give you a little talk about what they've been working on and what their future initiatives are with that group.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. We want to thank you for allowing this opportunity to present to you. I'm Emily Boone, a Be Nice representative, and today I'm here with
Harper Vitaki. I'm Emma Vitaki, and I'm one of the student leaders of this club.
My name is Adam, and I'm also a student leader.
and my name is Cameron Cola Giovanni.
So first of all, I know some of you might be a little bit unfamiliar with what Be Nice is and what our group does. So Be Nice is an organization, we're a Be Nice club that follows the model of the Mental Health Foundation of West Michigan, or Be Nice. And they have a really nice structure of how they help students and people with mental health illnesses. So I'm going to explain it in a moment, but for now, we started our club back in October of last year. We have 24 students with us, and we have 2 administrators. Our mission and our overall goal is to basically just cultivate a safe and comfortable environment for our students. And we want to destigmatize the conversation around mental health and mental health illnesses. We also want to inform our students on what mental health is and numerous mental health illnesses. We also want to supply resources to our students to help themselves and others. And essentially, the overarching goal of our club is to empower students to help others and themselves. And thank you. And then we also have one of the ways that we do that is with our action plan, which is to notice, invite, challenge, and empower, which spells out the word nice. So first of all, if you ever notice that a friend or a classmate is going through, well, first of all, you have to notice what is good and normal about someone so that you can notice changes about someone in their mental health, specifically with the way that person is thinking, acting, or feeling. And that's how you notice it. And then some are normal, some changes are like normal and okay, but some are signs of a mental illness. And then if these signs last for more than 2 weeks, then we need to move on to the next step, which is to invite. This means having a conversation with the person who is struggling, explaining what you've seen, and telling them that you're here for them. And then next is challenging them to get help from a trusted adult, like a counselor or a parent, and helping them through that. Lastly is empowering, meaning to empower yourself and others that we all have the power to better someone's mental health and that there is always hope.
The page, sorry. So some past events that we have done before are informational posters. These are posters that state some information as well as our action plan that Adam stated a minute ago. Next is the Be Nice Student Symposium, an event we went to which we will elaborate further soon. Last, we hosted a mental health speaker, which we will also speak on later.
So this Be Nice Student Symposium event that we attended was back in October. It was at Ford Field, which was really exciting. We got to see the field, take pictures, and it was also hosted by the Mental Health Foundation of West Michigan that I spoke about earlier. And essentially what it was is a bunch of schools from Michigan that came together, and basically we learned how to be better leaders and how to basically like empower our students to help with mental health and mental health awareness. and to reach our mission. So there were a bunch of activities that we did, but one of them that really stood out was therapy dogs. So they had therapy dogs there, and we learned about how they help people with mental illnesses.
Another thing that we learned during one of the sessions was there was trivia questions where we learned about mental health, and so one of the trivias was that 1 in 5 people suffer or have suffered from mental illnesses. Another is former President Abraham Lincoln famously suffered from depression. We also learned that mental health is a chemical imbalance in your brain. We also Harper, you get it. More about Anthony Grappito. He is a magician who has a presentation called "The Magic of Hope," and he's a mental health advocate, and he actually suffered from bullying, and he actually had some self-harm. He almost committed suicide 3 times, I think it was. And he ended up actually having like a few of his friends suffer from mental illnesses to the point where they actually committed suicide. And so that's how he came up with his presentation. And now he said that he was like been traveling around the world doing this presentation to help others to be more aware of it.
Some future initiatives that our club will be doing, one will be the mental health research document, which will be published soon, and that supplies information on certain mental illnesses if you're ever curious about them. And then there will also be lunch sales, which are related to mental health and stress-related products, and we'll be raising money for a mental health foundation. And then we also have affirmation sticky notes that we'll be putting up around the school. And they will have words of affirmation to kind of upbring people. And we will also, on the daily announcements, we will also add words of affirmation to, again, upbring people. And then finally, we have a banner, aka flag, that many of students have signed. And it basically shows that Hillside cares about people's mental health, and it's a main focus at Hillside.
Thank you for listening to us tonight, and we all hope you have a good night.
So that concludes our student portion of their lovely, yes.
It's fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Ms. Moffett and all of our students, and hopefully you're catching that theme there about leadership. We send our kids all over the state to find ideas, to develop themselves, and then bring those things back. So the Be Nice Summit, they were the ones that saw Mr. Grappito and said, that's something that we should bring back to Hillside. Those developmental things that they do, the Women's Summit, the middle level liftoff, those are kids who are interested in pursuing leadership and sharing that with this place. It's difficult sometimes in a school of 1,035 kids to develop that leadership, to develop that sense of community. And that's something that we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort on. And that's not all driven by the staff, as you can tell. We've got a whole cadre of student leaders out there who are capable of doing that work. So as we shift into, kind of this last piece, I'm going to do kind of an odd thing. I'm going to introduce our team, and then I'm going to jump forward for a minute and then maybe kind of come back. This building thinking classrooms focus, we've got several leaders here, and I'm going to highlight just the differences in experience. Dr. Carrie Zielinski has been working in the district for a number of years. as our district math coordinator and coach, and has been leading a lot of this coaching work. And I think what you're going to see here, and what you'll hear the teachers describe, does not happen in a vacuum. Doesn't happen from a principal handing somebody a book and saying, I heard that was pretty good. Now maybe give it a shot and see what you think. It takes guidance and accountability and structure and support and shadowing and coaching and a lot of intentionality. And going down the list of staff members, you've got Miss Lori Kingsbury, who is our math department head, is one of our seasoned math teachers with lots of experience. You've got Mrs. Kreider in the middle, former Hillside student, by the way, and a teacher who is in that middle part of her career. And then you have Miss Ann Leach, who is a brand new first-year teacher who we hired over the summer. And I think that's important. Anytime you start talking about change, and you talk about changing the way that that instruction looks in a classroom, it would be easy to say, well, of course Miss Leach can do it. She's like the new teacher, and those are the ones that bring in all the ideas. Or you could say, well, of course Mrs. Kingsbury could do it because she's been doing this forever, right? And of course she's good. And then you've got Mrs. Kreider, kind of in the middle as well, who has been an innovator since she got here. And I think you've got a breadth of experience with everybody willing to embrace something new. And that's the part I want to kind of flip ahead, and then I promise I'll get to the good stuff. I wanted to highlight this piece because whether we're talking about our students or our staff, this is something that we developed back in 2018. This is why the slide doesn't match, because this is from a different deck that we did with our with our teacher leadership team in the 17-18 school year. And we talked about what we wanted for Hillside, the kind of place that we were trying to create. And I'm going to flash back because I saw him sitting back there, and I think he scooted out. But we, or I should say I, because I did a lot of talking last year, for our grading overview. And I know we've got a lot of new board members, but some of you were here last year. And at the end, as we had gone through hearing from me, from the staff, from the students about how some of those innovative grading practices really affected their work-life balance, and I would say that's true for staff as well as the students, their feelings about their willingness to engage in that work, the confidence that they felt in being able to make mistakes and recover. And at the end, Mr. Wilson kind of characterized it as, and I took this as a compliment, he said, Mr. Jones, what you've done here is really diabolical to kind of put this together. And that's always stuck with me. And again, I take that as a compliment, although maybe it doesn't sound that way. But I also say that it's not diabolical. It comes with intention. And I think that creating a culture where what you're going to see can happen, where you are surrounded by innovators, and that's teachers and students and administrators. That was a goal that we, and that means teachers and administrators, set back in 2018, that in 4 or 5 years, and knowing that we had a construction project ahead of us and that we were going to be redoing what this place was, we set that as a goal, that we wanted to be that beacon for character education. And I look back at some of our board topics, the things that we have presented to this board, and in 2019, our focus on character education and our PBIS program and restorative practices, which is, 2019 was a number of years ago. Authentic assessment. We've presented on IB and the use of a rubric-based assessment. I think that might have been 2017. We spent a lot of time last year talking about innovative assessment practices driven by standards. And now we're sliding into what this last piece of that 21st century instruction. And I'm going to take a minute because I haven't introduced him yet, Mr. Ignani, who's hiding back here, thought he was going to get off light. The reason I wanted to highlight this for a moment is a beacon is an attraction, and that can attract students. I gave a tour today where our people in the community, our parents who maybe are choosing to go somewhere else, hear about the things that are happening and they come back. It's a beacon. I met Mr. Ignani at a curriculum leaders ongoing PD last year. He was in a neighboring district and we got to talking, as a couple of teachers might do in a PD. And he asked to come by and was looking for a couple of things very specifically, and saw those things, but he also, kind of wandered into a math meeting with some of these same folks, as a matter of fact. And I can remember coming down that ramp and seeing him at the end of the day. I think I had kind of like set him a little direction and said, go ahead and look around. And I caught him at the end of the day, and the look on his face after having spent a day here and seeing what our teachers can do, I'll never forget it. So I'm going to turn it over and you can maybe discuss what that looks like.
Good evening. So yes, I was working for a neighboring district. Mr. Jones and I did connect at an ongoing PD, and he was gracious enough to invite me to Hillside for a day, really to look at authentic assessment. But he did. He gave me a schedule and a map and said, go wander. And what an opportunity. So I did. And I spent the day observing classes, talking to teachers, talked to a whole department who was very gracious with their time. And wow, was I impressed. I was impressed by the teachers' reflection of their own growth in their practices. I was impressed by the innovation that I saw, the forward-leaning, forward-looking instructional practice that I saw, the ownership that students took in their own learning, in their own growth. And I did spend the day, and I was incredibly impressed and wondering how would you do this in the place I was at. And I went home excited and kind of invigorated. And my wife is also an educator. And so, I'm babbling about this all day because I probably did have a bit of a goofy look on my face. And just the risk taking, the doing hard things because those hard things were good for students. That was incredibly impressive by a wonderful group of teachers. And so when the position opened and there was an opportunity perhaps to come to Hillside, I got to confess, I too am a seasoned educator, and the idea of moving to another district at this stage of my career was a bit concerning to me. But my wife looked at me and she said, when you came home that day, you were excited about education. And so it really was an opportunity not to be missed. And the opportunity to join this incredible team has been phenomenal so far.
Thank you. And I'm going to pop back now a slide for a moment. And I think about that beacon that attracted a wonderful addition to our administrative team. I think about Ms. Leach, who in a interview process, which is not easy, I require our new teacher candidates to teach in front of real live human children. And man, our kids are tough. They have really high expectations. And the reason for that is because they're surrounded by really good teachers and they know what good instruction looks like. And if somebody shows up who cannot cut the mustard, boy, will they let you know. Well, they'll let me know real quick. And Ms. Leach was clearly our best candidate for highlighting a lot of the things that you'll see today. And when you see, several candidates together, when you've got those innovative practices, boy, do they shine. And I think much like Mr. Ignani, this is a brand new person starting out in a career who's really, really good and could have gone anywhere she wanted. And chose us, and I think was looking for us. And I take that as a point of pride, as a realization of all of the work that our teachers in multiple departments and multiple grades and all over the place, because it's not one teacher, it's not one department. It is a dedication and a commitment to innovation that creates that beacon and creates that attractant. As I'm sure some of you know as board members, when Hillside hosts things like the Middle Level Innovation Conference, when Ted Dintersmith comes here to speak on our stage, that's all a result of the work that our teachers are doing. And it's not easy. It would certainly be easy to say, you know, we're doing just fine. The scores are good. Let's just not rock the boat. We'll just kind of keep a hand on the wheel. And they don't do that. One, because that's not who they are. They're believers in making things a little bit different and a little bit better, and that commitment to growth. So that's what I want to leave you with as we slide into our building thinking classrooms.
My name is Dr. Carrie Zielinski, and I've had incredible opportunity to work with our teachers since 2016, first on a contracted basis and now as a full-time math coach. And I can tell you, I am just so proud of how they're growing. I mean, as a teacher, I mean, that's what you look for in your students. You look for how they're growing, and they are. And it's been incredible to observe and to watch. It's not easy being a leader, and I don't know if it ever was. But even today, I think it's harder in being a leader. I also think it's more challenging to be a teacher than it was 30 years ago. And it's definitely more challenging to be a child in these days. I actually have a dear close family member who attempted suicide unsuccessfully. I'm so grateful. But to have your Be Nice committee working on these mental health issues is so important. And so thank you to the leadership and your committees and your student council, and how much they're doing to support one another is incredible to see and to hear about. So building thinking classrooms really is not only about achieving academic goals, but it's also achieving other goals of the 21st century. And to help us or to lead us through this evening, we're going to ask you to assess yourselves using a growth mindset rubric. And we'll talk about that in just a few moments. And then we're going to define what a mathematically powerful student looks like and sounds like in today's classroom. And then we're going to invite board members as well as our honorable central office folks to participate in a building thinking classrooms math task. So you're going to live what building thinking classrooms looks like. We're going to start off talking about what your experience was in math class as a middle schooler. I see some of you shaking your head like, oh boy.
Are you asking for one of us?
Yes, we're asking for you to share.
Well, this is going to pain the math teachers in the room. And I said to you when I went to thank the kids for their presentation, I wish I had the three of you in my life, and nothing bad about the people I had. They were really kind people, but the instruction, the pedagogy was odds or evens, Monday through Thursday. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Anyone old as me? So you do the odds or the evens for the homework, and then Friday there's a quiz. That was it. And you were given some time. You were shown how to do 2 or 3 problems, and there was no conceptual understanding of the language of math, the beauty of math. It was get those done, be ready for the quiz Friday, unit test every month, done.
So I have many reflections on math. I just spoke with your PTA president, Ms. Banchero, about our respective memories of our math. I won't go into fleeing out of the house screaming because I couldn't sit down at the dining room table and do my homework. But what I do remember is that math was a timed event. And so you weren't necessarily required to just know how to derive the right answer, but you had to do it quick. and he had to do 100 of them in a minute or something. So that urgency and that pressure that had nothing really to do with learning the concept, right? But it
Right.
was, well, you better stand up and perform.
Right.
So that was stress producing.
I think my middle school math, I liked the rules. There was structure. There was not really room for creativity, so I kind of liked it back then. But then when I got to geometry, I was like, okay, this is even more confusing. But I was someone that enjoyed math. But my dad was also a really good helper with math. He was an engineer, so I think math, that genetic piece was easy for me.
Did you do your homework?
No way. No. He did not do my homework.
Well,
He
you get
did
to
help me, though,
shine
and he
in
would
just a
sit while
few
I would-
minutes.
Pardon?
You'll get to shine in just a few minutes.
We'll see if it's still there.
I'm going to be honest, I have zero memory of math in middle school. I think I was so focused on drama class and, all the social drama that was going on that I probably just blacked out all the math that I may or may not have learned.
So it was unmemorable.
Yes. And luckily, I think my anti-math gene skipped my kids. So thank goodness. I see several of my kids' math teachers back there. So I'm happy to say that it skipped my children. So.
My math experiences probably caused some little T trauma. Not good at math. I grew up with a dad and brother who both are bankers, so I was sort of the odd kid out in my family. I just met with Mr. Kling last Friday, and he had to explain things to me very, very gently because I was like, wait, how does that number get to this number? So I haven't improved much. However, had math been applicable, I love to quilt. I quilt and I sew, and I had no idea how much math was involved in that until I got into it. So I'm getting better in things that make sense to me, but when I think about math, I get very sad. So.
Oh, that just hurt.
I know. They're all really sad. Then I can come here and they can help support my mental health around my math struggles. So I think I'm in a good space.
Someone else? Yeah, go ahead.
So like Melissa, I don't remember a whole lot. The two things I remember, so one was the stress of all the standardized testing. I can remember those. But the other thing was I didn't like math, but somehow my teachers saw something and I got thrown into a special math class where we did all the fun things like the science of paper airplanes and computer work and stuff. So that really made an impression on me. And it actually kind of changed my direction forward. And I actually love math now.
So you saw the real life application?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good, that's good. So you should have in your packet what's called an effective effort rubric, and we want you to be honest, no cheating here, all right? So be honest in looking at each category and thinking about where you fall on this rubric.
We need to know if we need to get out.
This feels like the humility test today.
Oh, this thing here.
Is this math specific or life
No,
specific?
this is life specific.
Okay.
It's in your
Great question.
It's in it. I just happened to print this.
It's page 15. Do we get to assess our kids as well? Are they like?
Well, interesting that you say that because we are actually using this rubric to assess parents who come to our Parent Math 101. And what we're finding is that several of our parents find themselves under fixed or mixed, and we are promoting growth mindsets with our students. Because Dr. Carol Dweck out of Stanford University has done a lot of research around growth mindset. And the number one indicator for student success is to believe in themselves that they can. And that's what we're trying to promote. And this Building Thinking Classrooms really supports our efforts in helping students develop a growth mindset. Because there is no such thing as a math gene. There's no such thing as you either got it or you don't. We can all grow in our math abilities, and it all relies on the effort that we apply, as well as our self-efficacy, our sense of self-efficacy, and if we believe that we can. So this is really important research, and this is what we're trying to do with our students. So back in 2001, to give you a little bit of a history of why we're changing instructional practices and trying to meet students' needs in a different way, is back in 2001, there was a National Research Council that was brought together around 45 mathematics teacher educators. And they came from diverse backgrounds and from different technical abilities. And what they came up with is that these are the 5 strands of mathematical proficiency. If you think about your own learning of mathematics as a middle schooler, which of these 5 proficiencies do you feel your teacher focused on the most?
I think back in the day, probably that procedural fluency, right?
That's what I was thinking, yeah. I also think like adaptive reasoning was part of it too, like trying to explain your answer and how you got to the answer. And
I think mine was all conceptual understanding. For some reason, I remember like y equals mx plus b, but I don't know what to do with it. So
Okay.
the procedures.
Right, so you're talking about slope, right? The formula for slope. Most of us really focused on, especially what Dr. Weber was talking about, was that procedural fluency. The teacher showed you what to do, how to do it, and then you were expected to replicate or mimic what your teacher showed you. Wasn't necessarily teaching for understanding, conceptual understanding. It was more around procedural fluency. But a mathematically powerful student actually embraces and encompasses all 5 strands of mathematical proficiency. And Dr. Deborah Ball out of University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, she actually says that knowing math demands a kind of depth and detail that goes well beyond that procedural fluency that we learned. So you also have another document that describes the kinds of changes we are trying to make in our classrooms. This comes, from Principles to Actions, builds from that 2001 Adding It Up book document of research. And if you can look at less and more, think about your own mathematical experience as a middle schooler.
It's amazing that we've got this far in our mathematical development based on the principles that guided our original education. It's really
It's
quite a
exciting,
miracle that
right?
we survived, and thank God our kids started a better way. It's just amazing.
it is amazing, I agree.
And you're going to see Building Thinking Classrooms really stems from that, the more side that we want. Students collaborating and communicating with each other. We're helping students develop their critical thinking skills. And boy, do we need those today.
I really love the providing students with appropriate challenge, encouraging perseverance and problem solving, and supportive, productive struggle in mathematics. That I was connecting with a friend who was talking about kids in this generation seem to really struggle with being uncomfortable. And so teaching, I mean, and we have every device, right? We have heat, we have heated seats in our cars, we have we have all the things, right, that make our lives comfortable. So in the classroom to teach, like, it's okay to be challenged and to persevere and work through that is part of the work that helps us get to that critical thinking place that we want kids to get to.
You're describing cognitive dissonance, which is huge for learning. We need to experience that uncomfortableness in our brains and our minds in order to learn. So our overarching goal really is to help students develop those 4 C's of the 21st century, because these are essential skills for life, but they're also essential skills for global society. Thinking and communicating mathematically, creatively, critically, and collaboratively. And so now we're going to turn it over to Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Kreider. I teach advanced math and math 6 here at Hillside, all 6th grade. For those of you who are from Northville, you may recognize me from 2001, 2005, most team spirited on the swim team, all 4 years in a row. So I went to Hillside.
You're the one who swam with the cowbell in the pool.
No,
Okay.
but I do have a really embarrassing picture of me standing on Northville Road for a car wash wearing like a ridiculous inner tube and like these mermaid goggles and like fins and, you know, I was all in. So with building thinking classrooms, we're trying to get past all of that less of and the more of. And this book is probably the book that I've read in my professional career that has taken all of the things that I know I need to do, all the things I know I want to do, and actually given me like a way to do it. And often I feel like in the things that we read, they're like, here's what you should do, but they're always like, but how? How do I have the time? How do I have whatever amongst all the things? And this book really provided that kind of guidance and like in just a practical way, which is so cool. So what we're going to focus on tonight is kind of like the beginning. It goes even into like note-taking and grading and like student reflection and evaluation and all these things that we could go on and on and on. But the primary focus is this idea of vertical learning, learning in groups, sharing your thinking, and rich tasks, which kind of goes away from like what you guys were saying is like the just drill and kill kind of, right? So what you'll experience is similar to a quick video we're going to show, just a 3-minute video. The only difference between how the video shows the strategy is they actually give jobs. Some of us do that, some of us don't. It kind of depends on the class and the group. We're not going to do the job piece of it, but do be prepared to be vertical and working and talking and communicating kind of in the same way. Maybe. Oh, how would I click a video? Oh, wait, I found it. Nope, I lost it. If I click the book, but I just...
Should we click the book?
I don't know. Oh, I did it. I see.
Task is actually longer. Point to point, excellent. So
Vertical learning is being able to showcase your thinking process on a vertical surface, such as a whiteboard.
Traditional school has students working here, just really looking down. And when you use vertical learning, you're not protecting your understanding, you're sharing your understanding. So now that you've done the content, now look at the structure of it.
Having vertical surfaces doesn't create meaningful learning. There's some key components that have to be present for it to work. Front and foremost, there has to be a rich task. All right, guys, so today we're going to focus on the question, how does it grow?
Today we were focusing on exponential growth patterns, compound and simple interest.
So, who made the better decision if both Eugene and Claire plan on keeping their money in the account for 7 years? So we're gonna go ahead and randomize you guys here.
He puts everyone's name in, and then it randomizes you into all the different groups. Then you're not just stuck with the same people who have the same thinking. You're seeing more people's way of viewing things.
The randomizer also assigns them a role that day.
I'm the scribe. There's the scribe, the speaker, the inquirer, and the manager. The scribe is writing down what you're thinking, and they're the only one who is able to use a marker on the vertical surface. The speaker is the one who's representing your group.
So what type of model is going to be created here?
Linear.
Person 3 is what I call the inquirer. They're the only ones that can actually ask me questions. And then the 4th person is the manager. They're the ones that are making sure kids are staying on track.
And then we need to write a key at the top with dotted equals.
So I'm in the middle of the room and I usually do a quick little 360 making sure kids are on task. And it also allows me to see if kids haven't started anything yet. I can ask a couple probing questions or allow them to ask some clarifying questions. Where'd you guys get your multiplier from?
The 1.08 represents the 8%. Oh, it's actually 7%.
And then obviously another key component is the vertical non-permanent surface. Kids' work is always public. It's a little bit intimidating at first for kids because they're afraid to make mistakes, but then they realize, hey, it's non-permanent, I can erase.
It makes it easy for the whole class to see what everybody else is doing, so we can be inspired by each other's ideas. Some people might use a table while others might use a graph or an equation.
All right, caps on, pens. We can have a quick little debrief. Group number 4, walk us through which of the twins made the better decision.
So if you're going for 1 to 4 years, you'll want Eugene's, but 5+ years, Claire is going to get way more than this simple interest.
Long term, who made the better choice?
Claire.
All right, really nice work. We'll go ahead and erase your boards.
By using the vertical surfaces, I'm not the deliverer of all the information. I can move around the room and facilitate that conversation. What's one thing you noticed in the deconstruction?
So one thing that we noticed was that it had a claim at the end of the first paragraph.
Because of vertical learning, our kids are not afraid or shy to share information. It's really a positive environment where mistakes are valued. Collaboration is the norm. As a teacher, that makes me proud.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, we're gonna participate. So, members of the board and central office, if you'd come join, and anyone else in the audience who wants to come on in here and do some math, come on down. And I'm gonna just use my teacher voice. I can't do that. So come on.
All right. This is my board in action. Come on, Kling. Come on.
And what I have here are a couple books. And
And then you pass it around, you rotate it, and you take turns and then share.
Now what? So I'm going to hand it over to Miss Kingsbury and Miss Leach to talk about both.
So I'll start with Carrie has organized BTC collaboration cohorts that between the two middle schools and our high school. And we just had one today, and she asked me if I would be the teacher that was doing the teaching, where we get together in the morning, we talk about we do some tasks, we talk about she has us do some math tasks, and we talked about some articles and look at some different practices. And then I had 8 teachers in my room today so they can observe this in action. So I did it with my algebra class, since we had algebra teachers from the high school. And I picked the class because they're great. All my classes are great. But it's just, they got to see some of their comments is that it wasn't me. I just introduced, like Mrs. Kreider did, I introduced the task. And they went to their groups and they were doing the learning. They were learning from each other. They were challenging each other, but in that good, productive manner where someone thought something and they talked about it, and then they got to realize, okay, you were right, I was wrong, but they did it together. It wasn't me just saying, nope, that's not the answer. What do we need to do next? So we were doing parabolas, or like they like to say parabolas. I let him say it because it was killing him not to say it. I'm like, you can say it. Because I said, so they feed off each other and they're learning from each other. And we had one group that they noticed that there was a graph of a parabola and we haven't got to writing equations from a graph. And one group was determined. He was determined to find how to write that equation. I had to stop him. Like, you got to put the marker down. We got to go. And they were like, we'll get to it. I promise we will get to it. So that kind of thinking, that collaboration and them wanting to challenge each other, push each other, it was really good to see. And I got great feedback from the teachers, from Carrie, and I was nervous to do it. I mean, having 8 strangers in your room and all the kids, they did me proud. But also those students, they get to express themselves in other ways. They get to write it down. They get to talk to each other, use the vocabulary that we've learned. So what I want to, moving forward, is finding more opportunities to do this with our Desmos curriculum. Sometimes they have to be in their seats, but as I said today, I'm going to make it happen at least once a week, even for it's one slide. In Desmos, they always have a synthesis. Get them up to the boards doing that slide, or the cool downs, get them to the boards, because they even said walking out, I'm like, can't we do more of this? So they even like getting up out of their seats. So that's my goal moving forward. And like I said, they love it. They were saying how much fun they had and talking about quadratic equations. They had fun. So so thank you, Carrie, for pushing me to do it. And now for Mrs. Leach. I'm Miss Kingsbury, by the way, if you don't know, but here's Mrs. Leach.
All right, good evening. I just wanted to echo and kind of reiterate what Mr. Jones was saying about my experience with BTC, Building Thinking Classroom. My first exposure to it was actually when I was student teaching last spring. And so I was absolutely seeking a district where I would be supported to do these cutting edge teaching strategies, and not only supported, but coached and just surrounded by likewise or like-minded individuals who, just want to do what's best for students. So definitely the teacher market was hot when I was finding a job this summer, and Hillside was at the top of my list. So I was super excited when I was extended an offer. So just really great things happening at Northville that young teachers like myself are seeking in our job, let alone our first job. So just wanted to say, so excited to be here, and excited to continue with the Building Thinking Classrooms. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Can we do just a quick round of applause for our teachers and their staff? Thank you. Want to highlight one other thing real fast because, one other thing that I wanted to kind of highlight as far as the innovation front. Hopefully you had the same experience that I did just now. I kind of forgot that I was doing math, and I was really more engaged with the people that I was engaged with. And I think to myself, man, if middle school math had been like that, or if high school math had been like that, I may have enjoyed it more. I may have pursued a different path or a different career. And kind of to that end, I'm going to embarrass my son for just a quick minute. We have a future teacher in the back, and the reason I invited demand. Hi, Mason.
He's really good at math, by the way.
He is really good at math. And for the longest time, when we would discuss, what do you want to do after high school, it was, something with computers. And this summer was the first time we were kind of on one of the Bill Jones forced death marches in the woods. I call it hiking. I think that's what they call it. Let's walk 9 miles and not speak to each other in the hot sun. Sounds great, Dad. Let's do that. And he said, yeah, I think I might want to be a teacher. I want to teach math or maybe chemistry. And I said, well, I know a guy who has access to lots of teachers in classrooms. So with that idea in mind of, I think it is part of our charge as educators, be that as principals or teachers, to find that next generation of teachers, to make sure that they can do the job. So my invite to him was, he's in a neighboring district whose PD calendar does not align with ours. I thought, okay, so when you have one of those half days, why don't you come here and sit and watch our teachers? So I made him a little schedule, and he kind of hopped around a little bit. And my charge to him was, if you can't do what they're doing, then don't do it. Don't do it. And I think when he came here and saw the difference in instruction, the difference in performance and what that looks like on that cutting edge, when I said, hey, by the way, it's Tuesday night, got a board meeting and we're building, thinking classrooms. What do you think? He's like, oh, I'm coming. So those are the kind of teachers that we're looking for. And that's the kind of thing that meaningful, engaging instruction inspires when you get high school sophomores who show up to board meetings just to do math. And, a little advantage, and he's good at it and he likes it. But that's the inspirational piece. And I think about all of those kids who are sitting out there now who 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when somebody says, hey, tell me about your middle school math experience, their answers are going to be much different than ours. And that's because of the work that you guys are doing. So thank you. That's it. The end. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Wow. All right. Comments from the board. This is really a lot to take in and just, I don't know, so impressive. Who wants to start?
I have a question for Miss Kingsbury. Which class period was it today? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, maybe I have a conversation piece to go home and, okay, awesome.
Do you drill math at the dinner table? Is that what you're saying?
No, but my daughter is in her class. So if it had happened today while she was there, I could go home and be like, hey, guess what I learned today?
Yeah.
Really impress her,
Well, I had a lot of fun doing that, so thank you. And I do want to say thank you to Carrie because we started kindergarten with my daughter in 2021, I believe. And the PTA said, well, what are some things you'd be interested in? And I said, I want to learn how they do math now. And right away you came out and did a whole workshop and it was amazing. So I really appreciate the flexibility and the willingness to work with new parents. So thank you.
This was all just awesome. I'm very much in awe of this from the school's focus on mental health, which as a therapist myself, I find immensely important, especially at this age. And as I know how they're going to transition up to the high school. Also, this math lesson was really cool. And I think if that had been my experience in middle school, I would have remembered it and liked it and maybe, not run away screaming when my husband tries to show me spreadsheets and financial reports and things like that. but this was awesome. And I think at the very beginning of the presentation, talking about how difficult it is to be a teacher now, you guys are in the trenches doing the hard work every day. And we are so, so appreciative of that. And to the Masons of the world who are going to be our future teachers, we love you. We need you. We need good, solid people who want to do this work because it's not easy and it's hard every day, but you get up and you choose to do it. And that's what makes a great teacher. So thank you to those of you who are doing it. Thank you for those of you who are going to do it for us in the future. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate this. This was it was a lot of fun doing the math thing. And yeah, I love the engagement of it. Just like I talked about, when I had my one class that I really enjoyed, and then after that, it kind of went back to normal math. And although I kind of enjoyed math, it wasn't the same. So I love having these, all these opportunities to engage the kids. In terms of the Be Nice thing, I also loved that your efforts to show kids how normal it is with putting the affirmation stickers around the school and providing lists of famous people that have gone through mental illness bouts, kind of just it's all part of our the ongoing effort to destigmatize it. So I love that. Thank you very much.
I'm waiting to go last.
You want to go last? Okay, I'll go next then.
Because I am such a passionate advocate for what's going on in this school around learning. So thank you.
You want to go last? Okay.
I'm glad to go last.
Okay. So I've been on the board for 4 years, and we've had lots of conversations over my 4 years about mental health, about middle school math, and about there had been some concerns about test scores, and that's in the past. I'm so happy to hear about the really awesome things, to see that teacher grant for a harp. I mean, I went to the Ann Arbor Symphony Orchestra this weekend, and hearing the harp with the Studio Ghibli music was phenomenal. And to think that we're inspiring kids today at Hillside Middle School to think that they could do that someday, that's just really phenomenal. So hats off to the PTSA for those amazing efforts. Starting the Be Nice program and hearing about Anthony Gruppito coming in and really naming people experience self-harm, they experience suicidal ideation, and talking about that now. These are hard conversations, and it makes us, I think, as adults emotional. But to break that stigma and know, this is happening, kids, there is hope. We will help you get through it. Our community will support you through it. I think it's really breaking a ceiling that has existed for a lot of years. And I'm just so proud of all of you for really taking that initiative. And I'm so grateful because it's hard work. And being, like you said, Dr. Zielinski, being a teacher is hard. Being a parent is hard. Being a kid is hard. Being an administrator is hard. There's a lot of scrutiny. And I'm just really grateful that each of you are just taking these initiatives and taking these challenges. I can't imagine what it'd be like for you, Mrs. Kingsbury. Been here a lot of years to say, okay, I'm going to try it. It's different. It's not the rules. It's not as regimented. And people come under fire for that. And I think I'm excited to see what the growth will look like, that we're going to see that trajectory. I know it's happening. We know that it happens in the high school. So I'm just beyond thrilled about that. The innovative creating practices, hearing about what the vision was in 2019, and here we are now, 6 years later. It's happening, right? That we've set these goals. You guys are setting these goals. You're accomplishing it. It's just a little step each day. Thinking about the beacon and attracting other really awesome people to our district, that whether you're a seasoned person or not a seasoned person, we need everybody for the passion and the excitement to do this work, especially with middle schoolers. I have a middle schooler, and I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, I know how I do it, but you guys have a whole building of them, and I'm really excited to hear about the commitment to growth. Inspiring and finding the next generation of teachers, but also I hope we're also inspiring musicians and counselors and administrators, that it is the whole package. And I think our Be Nice and our Inclusion Week and the unified programming, I think Hillside has always been a really awesome place, but I'm really proud to hear the efforts and the leadership that is happening both from the top, but also from the bottom. And just that's awesome. So hats off. I don't know what else to say other than just really happy and really proud and excited to see what comes next.
So Kim, if you want to finish it, let me just really quick. So when I came to one of the board meetings that was here as Shannon, as the PTSA president, presenting on, what we had done that year, and it was a great presentation from Hillside teachers about collaboration between the social studies teachers. And then to fast forward to this and the collaboration between the math teachers. And it's just really exciting. And I think that we are really lucky that in our district that we've put a focus on math coaching and technology coaching and, doing our professional development days so that you can collaborate with the math teachers at the high school and, social studies teachers at Meads Mill. And so I just think that, it is kind of the steady theme where it's seasoned teachers who get that new spark and learn something new themselves. And it's exciting.
Agreed.
All right, Kim, wrap it up for us.
So I'm way up in the clouds. I'm thinking about the restructuring of what we thought we knew and believed about the act of learning and teaching, and what a whole shift in the whole approach of what goes into teaching and learning. And I, of course, was a faculty member at the university level, so I had the kids that these middle schoolers will be eventually. So I am, in my mind, tracking. Not only are they pressing upward through our district, they're going to press upward through the universities because, there's a lot of drill and practice at the university level too. And so we are creating, with these kinds of approaches, remarkable thinkers, and that will apply in whatever direction they go in their lives. And it could be in anything. You talk about music, you talk about art, you talk about engineering, you talk about the life sciences, you talk about, genetic, whatever it is that attracts your approach to thinking in new ways, using productive strategies of collaboration, of putting it out on a whiteboard, being able to articulate it enough that people around you can bounce off of that and make it better. That's how improved thinking happens, is through that interaction. And it's just so impressive. It is so impressive what goes on in the school, and I can just see that it's going to impact these students' lives within our district and beyond as adults, thinking adults. So thank you for that. And it's innovative, and it's just, I can't think of enough superlatives. I actually was envisioning this vortex in my mind. It was kind of like looking down into a hurricane of thinking and creative thought that was getting focused into some answers that maybe none of the participants had ever conceived of, but through that interaction, new thought, new ideas, and answers were coming to fruition. And that's where I was. So I was in the hurricane. But that's how profound it is. It is driving the change in the way that we think and ultimately behave as citizens. And I think the world needs that. I think, we're all products of our eras, but these kids have a wonderful era that's going to carry them forward. And, Mr. Jones, you lead an amazing team. Thank you very much.
And if I may, first there's a Perry Rambler up there, which is a rare thing. Miss Kingsbury and I grew up in the same hometown, attended the same schools, Rambler pride. So I need to start off with Dr. Brock. I know you probably didn't see this coming, Sandra, but here it is. So what we just witnessed from an instructional standpoint, and I want you to think back and remember to the elementary school visits that we've been on. What did we see in those visits? We saw the vertical piece on math. We saw an approach that as the students matriculate to you all, I think is going to get stronger and stronger. But when I saw tonight, Sandra's, who popped into my mind in the sense of curriculum and her attention to not only Desmos, but alignment in instructional coaching and collaboration. I mean, you believe in it. And not only do you believe in it, but our teachers benefit from it. When I think of what I heard of you all getting together, and that's a cultural aspect, you know, and what a great modeling for the kids. Dump the idea of, I don't want you in my classroom, I can't learn. Instead, when they see a bunch of adults getting together and they say, well, what were you doing today? Well, we were learning. Patrick, I know, is a deep coaching background that you have as a professional. This warms your heart as well. And I think of Kelly, you know, former art teacher, who getting kids up and moving. I was talking to the teachers and I said, what's one of the things about this, the vertical piece, help me understand? And it was the movement piece and what that triggers in your neurons and how to do it. And I genuinely had fun with Bill and Melissa figuring it out. Like, you'd try it once and you're like, okay, we could probably do better. And sure enough, you kind of hone in on that. And then the appropriate challenge was delivered. All right, go for 18, go for more. And that is wonderful. But Dr. Brock, the instructional coaching, the curricular supports in getting our teachers what they need in space and materials in belief is something I'm exceptionally grateful to you for. And we saw it on display tonight. Overnight success takes years. You know, people, I think, often look for the quick thing. I know I do. I mean, I would like to have my 25-year-old fitness level and just take a pill and wake up and have it, but that takes a lot of work to get there. I can't thank you all enough, sincerely, for what you do. And mentioning of the Be Nice, I've been very open about this. I myself have had anxiety and depression beside me for my entire life. And the message that I would simply say to our kids is, you can and will get better. That it's only one part of who you are. And once you kind of figure it out, it actually unlocks a lot of really cool superpowers. Once you're able to understand that you can persevere, but at the middle school level, where things are genuinely changing, and we joke about it, I'm a middle school nerd, you guys are all middle school nerds, like, people think we're crazy for wanting to teach at this level. There's a magic here. Like a raw, unadulterated, like unvarnished realness that you have to be strong enough to take a kid coming up to you and saying, oh, that was a really bad lesson, Weber. Like, what was going on today? And like, they're not trying to be mean. They're just speaking truth, right? But I also, we are all as parents and educators concerned about that 6th, 7th, 8th grade bandwidth and what can start to manifest. What we know about mental health, most mental health issues are going to start to arise around the age of 14, 13, 14. You all are here for those kids as they make that transition. And it's beyond a program, it's an ethos. Do you take care of each other as adults? Check. Do you believe in your kids? Check. Do you have counselors and social workers here who, if you're noticing something, will help you out? Check. That is all fantastic. And I'm really happy, President McIntyre, that you also focused on the things like that bring true joy to kids. A harp. Recess that we have. Most middle schools don't have recess. Our middle schools have recess. Movement. So I want to sincerely say thank you to each of you, and really thank you, Dr. Brock, for everything from the instructional part that we just saw. Beth, of course, passionate supporter of Be Nice as well. And thank you. And Mason, it is, I will say to you, 33 years in, easily, the favorite job I've ever had in my life is to be a classroom teacher. I've enjoyed every step along the way, but there is nothing like building a relationship with kids over 180 days, helping them do things they never thought they could do, and being there for them when they need you, because they will also be there for you when you need them. And I think any teacher who's going to be honest and vulnerable will say, sometimes you walk in not in the best headspace. First hour goes and they're with you and they can sense it and they have you. So thank you so much for each of you. Really, truly grateful. And thank you so much, Bill, for overnight success. Again, is not, takes a little bit of time, right? It doesn't happen overnight. So thank you for that. And thank you so much for everything. Yep.
Yeah, really incredible presentation. Okay, Next up, we have our superintendent report. Dr. Weber, I will hand it over to you.
Yes, I actually, do we have the
Yep.
public comment?
Well, public comment, I think, is next.
Oh. Oh.
Oh, it's us next. ABCD Awards. And I know the board is ready to go on that. I believe you have your assignments. And Stuart, you're already prepared. I love it.
Who put the box of Kleenex right in front of me? Come on. I didn't even notice that at first. Jeez Louise. Way to set me up for success, huh? All right. Well, I have the pleasure of doing the first ABCD award for Miss Foster, who's an ESL teacher here at Hillside. Miss Foster was nominated by a student who says she is amazing. She is so caring. I am not one of her students, but she treated me like one. Miss Foster does so much for our school and makes everyone, including myself, feel more welcome and appreciated. She works so hard to organize things such as International Day. She is so inclusive and deserves some recognition for all her hard work. Is Miss Foster here tonight? I didn't think so. I didn't think I saw her. Now, before we move on, I do want to say Hillside International Day is coming up April 11th. So she's putting in all the hard work. So thank you, Miss Foster.
Awesome. Winning.
Oh, that's good. I am next. Is Stacy Griswold here tonight? Nope, not tonight. Well, I hope that she feels the love that she is being awarded tonight in a nomination, being nominated for the ABCD award by a student who says, she is always so kind and encouraging, and really makes an impact on me and my classmates' education. I always light up when I walk into the classroom from the happy smile she greets everyone. An example of Miss Griswold's going above and beyond the call of duty is when we played a really fun game of telephone, which really helped my understanding of genetic mutations. That must have been a really cool game. I mean, I sat back for a minute and kind of imagined. I thought, yeah, I can see that. So this student remembers that. She is always going above and beyond every day because she helps makes class fun and uses games that correlate to the things we are learning that help us learn. She has made a positive impact on my everyday life. So, Miss Griswold, thank you very much for what you bring to your classroom.
Okay, well, I have the pleasure of giving a little bit more praise tonight to Lori Kingsbury. So this was a nomination from a student, and it said, Ms. Kingsbury not only is a great person in the classroom, but also out of the classroom. This is my second year having her for math class. Last year I had her for Advanced Math 7, and this year I have her for Algebra 1. Whenever one of her classmates has a question, she responds in a very detailed and nice way. I also know that she is a volleyball coach, which shows her dedication to her students' excellence and opportunity. This has a major impact on kids like me because we now feel more confident that we can be more knowledgeable and aware of what's going on in math class, but also in Hillside as a whole school. I'm writing to you to recommend Lori Kingsbury for the ABCD Award. So thank you very much.
I'm next, and I have the privilege of presenting the ABCD Award to Mr. Jones, who was nominated by a student. And the student writes, Mr. Jones is incredible. He always makes me and everyone else feel welcome, safe, and appreciated. If I have a problem at school, my first instinct is always to go to Mr. Jones. He always makes me feel heard and helps me with whatever is going on. He is very supportive and makes me feel like I can tell him anything, no matter what, and he will be there to help. So, Mr. Jones, thank you for your continued leadership at Hillside and making a difference for our students.
I want to underscore that too, that Mr. Jones came on board with the old Hillside building. And the way that you have led through that change, through the pandemic, I think you deserve this award every single year. And I really appreciate your sturdy leadership and saying things like, you know what, kids do what we ask them to do most of the time. And sometimes middle schoolers make mistakes, and that's what they're here to do. And really appreciate that mantra that lives in my head. Thank you.
Hello, I have Carrie. Is Carrie here? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know how to say your last name. How do you say it?
Wagenka.
Okay, there, she's got it. All right, well, I am pleased to go over your ABCD award. The parent who made this submission says, my son, who is in the eighth grade at Hillside, is staying with his aunt for the week. The routine is that he takes a bus to our house after school, does his homework, and waits for his aunt to pick him up. It worked well all week. Unfortunately, his book bag was inadvertently locked inside the house. They did not realize it until morning, and he was upset and worried about being unprepared for class. Carrie was very kind and compassionate and reassured my son that these things happen to all of us, and that the important thing was that he was in school. She helped him set up with a Chromebook and helped him to feel better about the situation. My sister could not say enough good things about her, telling me she was just the warmest and kindest person and did her best to relieve this stressful situation. As you all work with Carrie, I am sure you know how nice she is, but I wanted to personally share this story. She really went above and beyond and is very comforting and very much appreciated by me and my family. That is really sweet.
Yay.
Okay, I have the pleasure to honor Mrs. Yu tonight. I know that Mrs. Yu has the opportunity to teach most of the on-level math kids, and I think that's a special spot, especially in a high-achieving community like ours, that sometimes those kids maybe need a little extra encouragement, a little extra patience, and I know that, Miss Yu, you've had some of your own challenges this year that you've been really open with the kids and with the families, and I just really appreciate your vulnerability around that, which I know I've said to you, and I just want to honor that. Yeah, just you, Mrs. Yu. A student made this nomination on your behalf, and the student says, Mrs. Yu has had such a huge impact on me, supporting me through the toughest times in 6th grade. She went above and beyond, helping me through so many rough patches, taking away her planning hour to help me because she cared. She always was there for me no matter what, and was the reason I didn't flunk math, in all honesty. So hats off to you, and thank you so much for your dedication to all of our students.
And I have the last award of the night, English teacher, Mrs. Joyce Pianin. Did I say that correctly? And my new math buddy, who we were in our math group together. And as a former English teacher myself, what a cool thing to have 2 English teachers together trying to figure out math. And good thing we had Mason with us to show us how to get to 50. So this was submitted on behalf of a student. Mrs. Pianin has always been my favorite teacher. But besides that, she supported me as my team's manager for Battle of the Books, and she gave me extra time for work when I needed it. She knows that I am trying to do my best, even though it may take me longer to do it, and has always been kind and supportive to others as well. She talks over all of our work before we do it, which is super helpful before doing an assignment like a news ELA. These are all reasons that I nominated her for this award, and I hope she sees this and realizes what a great teacher she is. Congratulations.
Best English teacher ever.
Love it.
Okay, I think that's
All right.
that.
Well, thank you all so much. And Evan, I'm going to do something right now that you might not love, but I think you're awesome, so I'm doing it. Beth, if you could cue yourself up for the pre-K GSRP, but Evan, could you come up here a second? Thank you. So what you might not understand is, so we do these school visits every month, and Evan has the pleasure of setting up and tearing down and coming back and getting stuff. But one of the things we want to do is to make sure that all of you who got the awards could be seen on the YouTubes and the interwebs and things like that. So Evan's Pro Touch that when did you start this? You can't see it, but he puts he puts a black piece of gaffer tape on the floor so we're perfectly centered for the camera. So the magic of all of that goodness is right here. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, President McIntyre, and really another board member. I was at the Winchester PTSA meeting last week, and the news had broken maybe Wednesday night. That meeting was Thursday night, and asked a good question on it. I don't believe I was able to give the answer that she deserved. It was pretty fresh, but Beth has been working with Chelsea and Joanne, and we've had a few meetings on GSRP. I was actually at the Early Child Open House 3 weeks ago, maybe. And within 4 minutes, 2 different parents came up to me and asked me, like, Dr. Weber, what about GSRP? Like, where are we at with it? And at that point, it was very different than where we sit tonight. Moving target's an understatement. But Ms. Sander, could you let the community know where the state of Michigan perhaps currently is and what that could mean for us? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad that Dr. Weber gave a shout out to Chelsea Simmons and Joanne Sawicki, because they work the magic with GSRP. So I'm merely just their mouthpiece tonight. So we're really happy and excited that the state of Michigan is in a place where Northville was able to apply for GSRP classrooms to be located in 2 of our buildings. So we're looking at Old Village and we're looking at Ridgewood. We originally were thinking of 2 classrooms, but to be honest with you, when they've received our applications and they're going to be reviewing them and they're going to come out for site visits, and we might be able to add some more classrooms. So we're kind of awaiting that. We do feel like we will be approved. We just can't say it yet. The plan is to convert the classrooms, so we're not going to be adding classrooms to tax space for enrollment growth. We're going to be converting some of our 4-year-old classrooms. Right now, our early childhood does cross age groups. So what they would do is they would have that 4-year-old group, and they would just replace some of those classrooms with 4-year-old GSRP classrooms, if that makes sense. The governor has made it really clear that she wants free preschool for all, and GSRP was the vehicle to arrive at that free preschool for all. But it's been definitely a process, Dr. Weber alluded to it, that has morphed and changed. So GSRP had eligibility requirements and always has. As this has been the vehicle for free preschool for all, we've been waiting for those eligibility requirements, some to lift or expand or morph and change to where we would feel confident having these classrooms and feeling like we could fill them with our families. And at this point, the income requirement has been lifted. It was 100% above the poverty level, then 300%, then 400%, and now it's been lifted. That was huge for us. And then there are still some eligibility requirements. At this point, we're not sure if that just means those families would get priority placements, or they haven't quite defined that. but we're not feeling like that is the barrier at this point. We're feeling very confident that we could fill at least 2 classrooms and maybe even up to 4. So again, we'll have to see after they review our application, how many rooms they would grant us. It is for 4-year-olds, 5 days a week. So we do have currently 70 families that will be 4 years old and currently attend as a 3-year-old 5 days a week. So we already know we have that. And then we have about 35 other families that have a child that is part-time, and it's unknown if it was free, would they be full-time? Maybe, maybe not. So Joanne and Chelsea are digging into those details, as well as making sure that they have their ear to the ground to make sure that any new changes that come, we are informed of right away. But that's pretty much it. We're feeling really positive about it. Are there any questions?
I have questions. I have a lot of elementary, so a lot of preschool friends. For the budget for the governor, does she have the money to pay for this yet, or is she relying on the future budget? She just has lifted all the restrictions, but I'm just a little bit worried about, is she actually going to get the money for it? Do we know that?
Well, we don't know it yet because actually those restrictions were literally just lifted. Chelsea let Dr. Weber and I know, I want to say last Wednesday. I mean, it's recent.
Okay.
Now, we had already applied
Right.
because we had heard that could happen.
And then so for the people that we have enrolled already, would we open it up if everything's unrestricted and funded? Would we open it up for other people to apply? Because I'm sure there's many people in Northville that have their 4-year-olds going to other places. Would we open it up to those for this coming year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So GSRP actually currently requires you to advertise that you have it. Now, at this point, we're not even sure if once this truly becomes free preschool for all, will it even be called GSRP, and what will happen to those other requirements. But currently, we're required to make sure that we put it on our website and that we are talking about it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking. So to follow up on your question, that there could likely be way more people than what we can accommodate, then we're looking at some kind of a lottery situation. Is that it? Or would we give priority to the people who are already in our early child,
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't quite figured all of that out. We do know that if we still have the other eligibility factors, we're assuming that those families would get priority placement. And then Chelsea and Joanne are already kind of shoring up their systems to have time-stamped applications and completed applications in case you go to a first come, first serve type of format, but we need to learn a little bit more before we would have our full process set.
That makes sense. And we've already started preschool enrollment, right, for next
We have.
fall? Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense. It's March, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
End of March almost. Okay. Thank you. I'm so appreciative that we went ahead and applied for the program and that we're moving forward with that. Seems like a really awesome thing for kids and for Northville. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is an update on the Wellness Committee, which met just last week. The committee is headed by Carrie Morfino, the head of food service here in the Northville Public Schools, and Darby Hoppenstedt, Director of Community Partnerships and Wellbeing. And right here, I love the logo. Can we go back to the logo really quick? The head and the heart. I just think that that's great. All right, thanks. And so I made a bit of a joke when I went and introduced and just showed gratitude to the people who are in this space. I know we have somebody up here that can add some additional, perhaps color to it. But when I looked around that room and we had a sense of who we had wanting to be on this committee, like the amount of money it would cost to get this level of expertise into a room and like pay them for their it's unbelievable. We actually had over 45 people apply to be on the committee, which speaks really well the desire. There was some disappointment. I had some meetings with a couple folks who didn't get chosen, but just to assure everybody, the choice, again, I made a comment about this last time, we chose out of a hat basically with a third party doing it for us because the passion for being there. But if you just take a look at some of the people who are interested, really amazing. And I want to say thank you to them tonight, as I did last week. The agenda from last week, the welcome, the reviewing the norms, role selections, I'm looking at mine, I'm sorry, role, purpose, and so on. And if we could do the next slide, please. So coming down to that, prior to next meeting, begin thinking about SMART goals for the committee. It's a very broad piece. When we talk about health and well-being, it can go anything from people interested in food choices to starting times and so on. I took the opportunity at the beginning to let folks know that from the federal government, I believe we get just north of $4 per lunch. That's what we get to put together the food. And as we had discussed before as well, and this is something for Devin and Steve, in the future, is the fact that our 6 elementary schools do not have hooded kitchens that can actually prepare and hold food, which surprises a lot of people. Something as a watch point, I believe, for the board is that if we continue to go towards the well-being, food keeps coming back again and again in many different ways. And my offer would be that it's something we need to really deeply think about and consider as we look at becoming an even better district. So it was going to be, I think, a meeting. I think this says on May, but from what I understand, the committee was so fired up, they want to go from a meeting every 2 months to a meeting every month. In the meeting time and dates would be set. And it seemed like people were good with that. Kim, anything you'd like to say, having been in there?
Well, it's my honor to be able to be part of that committee. And you're right, it is an impressive assembly of parents with all kinds of talents, which is so typical of this district. Parents are very forward-facing and engaged. So a wide variety. It's interesting, what a blind draw out of a hat produces. And it's really quite a great distribution of people with different talents and perspectives, quite an interest in mental health, but also an interest in nutrition and exercise and sleep and, a lot of factors that have to do with being healthy and preventing, the chronic diseases of adulthood, which are all rooted in how we live our lives as children and adolescents. So there's also staff on the committee. So staff wellness was an important consideration. We're talking about all of us here in this microcosm of the universe, which is all of the adults as well as the youth. So that brings an important sensitivity, I think, to the discussions. We worked in small breakout sessions, so we got all kinds of papers with little Post-its on it, and we'll digest it in the next meeting and move forward. But it was, as I say, I'm not being flippant. It was my honor to be able to contribute something to that really wonderful effort. So thank you for pulling that together.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. And we'll shift now to last week. We had a person from Final Site, and she led 10 different focus groups through Thursday and Friday, providing us feedback. Did a couple word clouds on the positive feedback and the challenge feedback, and then I have a few bullet points on that that will help. But truly, the what you see here coming back as positives are things that I hope should make us all feel pretty good. Community, inclusive, academics, opportunity, diverse, things of that nature. And then on the challenges, this is interesting. Expectations, pressure, competitive, and communication was one of the biggest pieces to come back. And out of those 10 different focus groups, having a third party do it, I think, was very helpful. Our COLT team actually met with that person. But one of the agreements that was very straightforward is there was no conversation about names or who this or who that. It was more of what the third party pulled in. And so what we heard from our groups was, let's just go right to the bottom. And I'm going to flip up because I think this is really powerful. So we also did, Final Site did an analytic review of our current website. And then I want to share the community feedback that also comes with that. So you see the 1 million versus 6,000. So analytics last year, our current website had 1 million visits, but only 6,000 clicked beyond the initial page. So that's a tell of it either not being usable to the level that we need, people not finding things as quickly as they want to. And that was corroborated. So data is neither good or bad, it's just data. But one of the biggest points, so every Tuesday, we actually meet for a full hour with a representative final site to keep the process going, to get feedback, to have conversations. And I'm going to use the words producer versus consumer, but I want you to think of it this way as well. Employee versus parent, not versus in the sense of a competition or a throwdown, but so undeniably, those of us who serve in the district feel like our communication efforts and what we do are really good. That was anathema to the feedback from our parents in the room saying we can do a lot better. And what I need to say this as much as I possibly can, you don't have to be sick to be better. I think I first said it in this room when I interviewed here 3 years ago. None of this is when we talk about getting better, like overnight success happening over 10 years. It's not an admonition. I loved my teachers in Perry. They were doing the best they could. They took care of me. They kept an eye on me. I was a handful. But as we learn new ways of being and doing things, it's incumbent upon us to go that direction and do that. So from a communication standpoint as well, how do we reach people? I'll never forget one of my very first communication subcommittee meetings. I think Ms. Jafer was there. I think Lindsay Wilson was there, and I believe you were there, Lisa. And the charge that Rebecca and I received in that meeting was very straightforward, and that was putting a focus on improving our communication aspects and increasing enrollment. I'm really proud of the work Rebecca, Katie, and Darby have done in the past 2.5 years to really get content that is wonderful. We last week acknowledged for 2 high-level awards for our communication efforts. However, as we look at the data and we see those things, we can obviously do better for our community. And that is what we're trying to do, whether it's bringing in the Young Fives program, whether it's, we're talking with Beth here on GSRP. You heard a teacher here tonight say that she circled Hillside and Northville as a district to want to be at. So what we hear in the HR world from some people is, hey, you're the only district that has a classroom close-up. Like I could see what it was actually like in a classroom in your school district. So that was the feedback that we had also from, especially from the users. Calendar presence on web pages needs to be far more clear. A simple contact info and staff directory. So if somebody wants to find somebody, they can get a hold of them. And then we got some feedback, too many tools and portals. I don't think that was as much a district thing, but if anybody with a cell phone who's got kids wants to pick up their phone and count how many apps they have to keep track of, I don't know, the library, the soccer, all of that, that's on there. And as I share that as well, what we're really in the edge we're working toward is there is a district, we benchmark everything we do here. Just like Dr. Brock didn't jump into Desmos, you benchmarked it, you took a look and really got after that. But there's a district that I sent the board who went to this approach of doing branding and web design at the same time. Their enrollment increased for the first time in 10 years. Requests for campus tours increased. Fewer questions, phone calls submitted to enrollment services from prospective families. High praise from other school districts. And so really, if our deliverables have to match, so to speak, or be exemplified in a way that when people jump on our website or see what that brand is when they're in Northville, it's crystal clear. So that was the feedback that we got just today from those 2 days. If anyone in this room or out in TV land, I was part of the focus groups. I'm grateful for that. Very, very helpful. So that's an update there. I don't know if there's anything else the board would like on that. Okay. Oh, e-hall pass. So Miss Peck, let's talk e-hall passes. I just remember, I can't help it, Kingsbury, all I'm thinking of is Perry and thinking how they used to, I'm looking right at you and thinking how they put the attendants on the door and used to go around and pull them off the door. And if you were the kid that got to do that, how cool that was. But Miss Peck, we're talking electronics now.
We've moved into perhaps another century, probably not for Ms.
Oh,
Kingsley.
very nice, very nice.
Not
Well
for
played.
you,
Well
but
played.
for Dr. Weber.
Ouch.
So e-hall pass, think back to your days in secondary. You needed to leave and use the restroom or maybe take a pass down to a counseling office or, go to another classroom to take an assessment. You grab the whatever device that teacher used as their hall pass. And I've seen some quite hilarious ones over the years. Not saying those are going to go away because those may still be around. I saw a trumpet once. I saw my neighbor teacher had a pylon, those big orange things that sit out in the parking lot, which he took from the parking lot, by the way. So what eHall Pass is, it's a system that helps the administration and teachers monitor student movement in the building during the school day. It is kind of the brainchild of the people that do this work more than I do now. They assembled the assistant superintendent rock star team, as I like to call them. So Mr. Jim Gordon from the high school, Patrick Ignaghi from Hillside here, and then Will Lambden over at Meads Mill. And they have been studying this and talking with some teachers, talking with other districts that use systems like this. The purpose of the system, again, is to manage movement within the building and to control that movement to an extent. All of you have been to the high school. I don't know if you've walked the entire length of the high school, but it's a tennis shoe kind of activity. There's lots of nooks and crannies. This building alone, Steve could probably tell us how many square feet it is. There's a lot of spaces here, around here. And one of the things that we want to focus on in this process of adopting a system like this is to not just monitor student movement and make sure that they're going where they're supposed to be going. They're assigned to a specific bathroom in a certain hall. That's if they're using the restroom, that's where they should be going, and not going to the other end of the building or meeting up with their friends in another little nook and cranny. And I don't want to paint a picture that there's utter chaos happening in our buildings. There isn't. But one of the other things that our principals are top of mind is student safety. That's from a critical incident perspective, but it's also from looking at data for students to find out how much they're leaving their classrooms, and where they're going, and what are some of the things that we can put in place to support students in the event that there's some classroom avoidance or there's some other things that just aren't coming out in the relationships that are built in each of their classrooms. We were talking about this at the secondary level meeting, and somebody had mentioned that every system we put in place, we have to focus on any student that could fall through a crack within one of our buildings. And this is just one of those things. It's a tool in the toolbox. The other thing that was very evident in that conversation was that whatever system we move towards, it has to be something that our teachers will find helpful and useful, and part of their regular everyday. It's not something that we want to create a hardship on our teachers for doing something that they can do easily now. We're not trying to fix something with a very elaborate tool. So the goal right now, where we're at in this process, the team, and I'm telling you about it, but I'm not taking credit for any of this. They have been looking at several systems that are out there. They've talked to several of their peers across the state and beyond on these systems. They've narrowed it down to 3, maybe 2. They're doing some work this week on identifying. There's one that they might rule out because it's not user-friendly for the student and the teacher. And their goal is to get working versions in each of the buildings so that teachers can pilot it through the end of the year, so we can figure out which one system is the best system for us to implement next year.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Any
on that?
questions?
Right. Thank you very much, Ms. Peck.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that you really identified that one of the reasons is to really help prevent kids from falling through the cracks, right? That it seems like you named some of the things that I would worry about, right? Like the kids who are avoiding a particular class or avoiding a particular afternoon of classes, so I'm grateful for the leadership to really be identifying, like, we know that that will have a positive impact on all the things that we want to impact kids, which is to have them in class so they can learn and deal with whatever the barriers are to learning, so.
And the systems that we have in place to support students, our MTSS system,
Yep.
this data will feed into that system. So our counselors, our mental health care professionals are anticipating this as being helpful data that will support the MTSS process.
Amazing. Thank you.
2 Mondays ago, I had the pleasure of going to the Michigan Education Foundation. It was, I think, a quarterly meeting with Kate Mitchell from the NEF. I know Rockford was there, Dearborn was there, South Redford, Brighton. So many of the charitable organizations, and we have a great relationship with NEF. Kate and I had the good fortune to share the success we've had with Super Sub and the relationship between our central office, our district, and NEF. That was, I think, the Delta Dental Building in Okemos, which is massive, by the way. So just wanted to update the board on that and shout out appreciation for NEF. The Glow Gala was fantastic, and I know they have a golf outing around the corner and STEAM Fair coming up, but maybe some of you get that to the end. H, grading practices. So a question on this. But I think Karen had mentioned that we had talked about this in spring of 23. So with the departure of Mr. Boffman, Dr. Brock and I have taken the leadership of the grading practices group and committee. And one of the very first things that they shared with us is they had a feeling that we could have done a better job of communicating these 5 guardrails. The board saw them. They went out in several different communication forms, but it was actually the committee that stood up and said, if we can get some time during the next PD day, let us do presentations with every middle school through high school teacher. That's fantastic. Really stand up. So we're putting together a brief presentation on that. Communication is kind of a little bit of a theme tonight. I think that often we can think that we do it really well, and I don't know if there's ever enough of it or really enough of it. But we'll actually be at the high school on the 16th, making sure that every staff member and new staff members, that's another piece that comes from this. And Rebecca and Sandra and Beth have to fight this every year. We hire new people. And so how do we keep the PD loops we have going? How do we make sure that the core tenets of who we are being shared with people in a way they'll receive it? And it truly is a huge challenge. And that's where the PD days have helped us tremendously capture some of these people. So we'll capture some people who are new, and then we'll reiterate these 5 guardrail, guard post type of things. And you can obviously read those and see those, that students' grades must be based upon students' proficiency with the course content, not non-academic behavior. So not penalizing kids for behavior that isn't within that academic scope that would actually impact their grade. And then we have a student work will be accepted for a minimum of 80% of the credit earned for at least 1 full AB rotation. That's a high school piece. Extra credit for non-academic behaviors will not be given. So Ms. Stewart, the old school, bring the tissues to the teacher, get some extra credit. We're not doing that anymore. We want grades to really be a reflection of what kids know, to feel pride in, and to be as consistent as possible. So Dr. Brock, I'm not sure if you had anything you wanted to add into that, or if the board has any questions on that.
I think this is helpful because I was thinking about, we have new board members too, right? That is, we're
there you go.
talking about grading practices and
Yeah.
what the next iteration or what the next set of, I don't know, focus points are going to be for the grading practices
Yeah.
committee. That I think this is really helpful also for the board to see and understand. And I'm sure maybe you guys have questions, maybe not.
Yeah.
I do have one question. Go ahead, Ron.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so I remember when this was taught, originally, like Aaron said, these were like the low hanging fruit, and we had some other things that we wanted to do.
Yep.
What's the status on those? What's the thinking?
Sure. So one of the things that the IRP was actually in the district today and tomorrow. So the heads of the restorative practice group wanted to come see our district because of the work we've done. So Rebecca, Darby, and I met with them today, and it was really a wonderful meeting, and a lot of pride that I have in the work that our administrators and teachers have done to be recognized. I mean, they were here genuinely curious, like, what can we get from you all to help us do this work across the country. But Sandra and I circled up the group. Frankly, it hadn't met as regularly as it needed to in this year. And last year, there wasn't really an arrival point, Ron, to what they were going for. There seemed to be a lot of tension and a lot of arguing about what is the way. And one thing Sandra and I realized and found out was that the reason I think the tension was there, and this is where RP is great, you just circle up and get after it. Like, use some protocols and get rid of the notion of ego and power and control. And it emerged really quickly that we were trying to do a 6 through 12 approach. 6, 7, 8 is very different than 9, 12. In 9, 12, 130 teachers, you have art alone. What was it when we were at the high school? Somebody saved me. Did we have like just ceramics classes alone? I think there were 4 or 5 different ceramics in art. So it was a realization that what we needed to do was to really bifurcate our approach, have the middle schools working together on those things, and then the high school going into it. So really, Sandra and I are in a spot where we were attentive and listened to the people on the committee. They are super stand up. We're going to clearly communicate to everybody. And then as we go into next year, we're going into that year knowing that we're not trying to think about this in a 6-12 piece. You have Hillside, who's been swimming in this pool for a while. Other folks at Meads have as well. But now that we have some connective tissue there between Melissa and Bill, that's helpful. In the high school, we have to acknowledge it would be absolutely, being a middle school and high school principal, myself, Sandra, high school, it is a very different world as far as number of courses, consequences, and so on. And it's going to take more time, and it's going to, like it did, I think, in 23, I think you guys are probably at the meeting, even if you weren't on the board, I think you're at the meeting. It elicited some passionate discourse around that. And so how do we educate people around these things? And, if Bill's still here, he and I had some back and forth with each other because he and I see this is a big, huge issue of when we talk about why are students stressed out as much as they are. Well, maybe is it because the universities make you feel like if you don't get a 4.75, a little tongue in cheek there, that you're going to struggle having a successful life. So those are the windmills Bill and I tend to tilt against and annoy people because we want to go after the whole thing because it's sitting right in front of us when we see our kids. However, also knowing we have to temper ourselves to what is useful, what is practical, and what will truly be helpful. And sometimes that means that we might not go as far as we might think we need to. But Sandra, I saw you were grabbing the mic. Yep.
Is my teacher voice?
No, you got it.
Another piece is as we move forward, we're adding membership from all 3 of the buildings to the committee because the committee felt really strongly about rolling these out and then also incorporating more staff members who want to be on the committee because as we choose those next focus areas, it gets tricky because grading is very personal. And so just making sure that we have representation from other departments, from all 3 buildings, as we kind of start to tackle the more highly hanging fruit, for lack of a better term.
Some of the stuff at the tippy top of the tree that can get a little scary when you try to grab it.
Yeah. So thank you. I love these. This is a great step forward to make sure that,
Yeah, if you look at these 5, there are basic things there that no student should ever have to pay a price for something that, we're not here to teach responsibility. We're here to teach math. If the lovely teachers who helped us learn math tonight were more keyed in on, I was a minute and a half late to getting to your vertical board because I had to use the restroom, which I did, sorry. You said to me right away, hey, Weber, all right, highest you can get's an 80 today. You rolled in 2 minutes late. That kind of stuff is not beneficial to teaching and learning and really doesn't tell what we know. There are other ways we can do those things. And believe me, this is a passionate topic for many people. I don't pretend to know everything about it. Sandra doesn't pretend to know everything about it. But what we know is the body of research is too large to ignore. And we are leaders, and we're going to lead. We're going to go towards things that matter for kids. So thank you for that. Also, we're going to use the April 16th day to elicit feedback from every 6th through 12th grade teacher. What is it that we could go towards next? What do you disagree with maybe a little bit on these 5? And just being very personal and frontal with our communication strategy. So that's the goal there.
Great work.
Thank you all. And then we have some bond updates. We have Devin Kling and Steve Banchero. And believe it or not, this spring break, I think there's some action occurring.
That is true. We have made it to the fun part of the meeting. So we have a quick with spring break coming up. As you may or may not know, we have a lot of bond projects going out throughout the district. Some of them are starting this spring break. So we have a quick high level bond update. We have the privilege of having Mr. Steve Ranchero here to give us the lowdown. So thank you, Steve.
You get to hear from the lesser of the Bancheros now.
Please share with, well, one, I want to say this. Your wife runs a fantastic meeting. She is on point. Doesn't really surprise me, but these cookies, wherever they came from, they're awful, so just send them to me. But they're wonderful. You're not lesser, Steve.
In
Maybe.
our little dynamic, I definitely am. Okay, so just like I said, I'll keep it brief. Appreciate the opportunity to give you an update tonight. Obviously, afterwards, ask any questions. At Ammerman, we're continuing on with the cafeteria addition. Things are going pretty well there. We've had some favorable weather this spring. Continuing on the structural masonry during the week and then and beyond. But the next part of the journey at Ammerman is actually we're starting the office addition. So come Monday of spring break, we're putting up a temporary wall inside their existing office. And if you've been in Ammerman's existing office, it's very small. So, but we do have to create a separation between our construction zone and the occupants of the office, Devin's office and the conference room. So it'll be a busy week there setting up that temporary partition, and we're going to be putting up temporary fencing around part of the office area to facilitate the construction there. We are going to be taking off a piece of the canopy or the fascia and soffit at that building. And then within the courtyard, we're actually going to be removing some of that fascia and soffit also to get a head start on the summer work. Another item we're working at Ammerman this break is we're replacing all the gymnasium lights with LED fixtures. So back last summer, we awarded LED project retrofit. They're almost done with that project. What they have some miscellaneous rooms at the high school to finish, and then Ridgewood, they've delayed that, not delayed it, but they're going to plan to do Ridgewood all in one summer this summer. So the rest of the buildings, that scope is almost complete. So all that work was happening on second shift, weekends, and during the break. So any questions on Ammerman as we go?
Will the front walkway be impacted, like as you described that partition and all
A
of that?
little bit,
Okay.
but we meet weekly with Devin. Our construction team has a logistics plan that she's signed off on, and she knows what her routes are in and out of the building.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Moving on for the 2025 high school mechanical project. We're replacing drinking fountains over the break, and we're starting prep work. We're actually adding an additional air handling unit in the new wing. So we're starting to prep work on that for the high school project. The high school baseball fields, softball fields, the walks are substantially complete. Weather permitting, there's a decorative fencing that we need to complete within the next to the baseball field. And then there's a lot of restoration activities, final grading, that sort of stuff. So that's going to be going for the next 2-3 weeks. But we're hoping for dry weather. At Meads Mill, their journey starts really, over spring break. So that is a longer project. It's definitely not a summer project, and it's definitely not a one-year project. So, but the trades are starting to mobilize. We're going to start prepping the site for the building addition, and if you recall, it's in the south side of the building, so you're not going to see it if you come in every day to the front. You're really not going to see that building addition as we're building it because it's in the back of the building. One of the key components that we're doing is there's a technology cabinet in the newer part of Meads. We actually have to move that. So the tech team is working with their contractors or their vendors to move that cabinet, move all the associated wiring that serves that end of the building, and have it back online for the start of school after the break. And we'll be setting up some temporary walls and partitions within the building to separate ourselves from the occupants. Longer term things that we're working on. Again, this summer, we're going to start our journey with the district-wide fiber optic wide area network replacement. That's about a year project, but they'll be starting with, they do a pole survey, and there's a lot of regulatory work they have to do with DT just to hang that fiber on the poles. We're meeting almost weekly on design items for the high school STEM edition. That's kind of an exciting project and where that's going. And I think in the next update, the renderings will be complete enough that we could show you, because I think we were on option D or E or F. So we're challenging our design team to come up with an appropriate addition that looks good on the building, that fits with the theme of the building, and also within their budget. So we'll have an update that in the next couple months for the high school. Moraine additional renovation project. We're almost at design development, which is kind of the halfway point. We're getting ready to turn over those plans to our construction team for estimating. Andrew has a district-wide audio-visual upgrade project that is out for bid. So that's going to be touching the cafeterias and gymnasiums. So we're upgrading those systems within the buildings. That will happen this summer and into the fall of 25. And if you can believe it or not, we're starting to think about the next round of projects, which is actually going to be Silver Springs and Winchester. Construction is still facing a lot of headwinds based on post-COVID things. Major switchgear is still taking 13 to 14 months to get. Wow. That's after you give the vendor a purchase order. So we have to do a lot of pre-planning. So we have to kind of design those systems now. We put out an early package just to acquire the systems. So when we're talking about doing construction in 2027, we actually have them. So we're starting to design ideas around just electrical gear for 2027, which seems like a long ways away, but there's been an explosion in manufacturing, chip manufacturing, data centers, solar, that's really pulled a lot of the resources away from people that make those kind of electrical components. And then we continue with our weekly meetings with our bond team. We do one in person, and then the other week we do a virtual meeting. So we're constantly keeping in touch with those folks. And then I mentioned we're still doing a lot of design meetings at the high school in Moraine. So a lot of things going on.
Yeah. So Steve, is there any accommodation or thinking related to the tariffs that are?
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting component of pricing as we move forward. It's really too early to tell because they're on again, off again. The industry is, I think, still trying to figure out what's going on. Just like every industry there is, it will be a factor though.
Is there any predictability around what components or elements are heavily driven by China or Mexico?
The construction industry is kind of local at a lot of levels.
Yeah.
I would say very few of the components that we get, durable goods, brick, concrete, that stuff comes from offshores. It's the components, it's the chips, it's the motors that we saw really impacted during COVID. A lot of those do come from overseas manufacturers, so we'll see how that is affected in pricing. There's a couple things that just learned today. It's been a long time in the coming, but the EPA has changed the refrigerant formula for commercial, just for all air conditioners. So the refrigerant systems that you could buy last year, they're phasing out. So the components you can buy for repairs, but any new systems, you can't buy new systems with the old formulas. You have to have the new formulas. Well, that impacts two of our projects because we were retrofitting an existing piece, and we just wanted to replace the condenser and the coil and put it within our existing air handler. But it's the interpretation of the EPA rules and guidance that we're not allowed to do that because we void a UL certificate on that unit when we do it. So I'm meeting with our design partners on Thursday to come up with a solution to that one. So it's always something different, I'm kind of like the redhead. Well, I'm like the stepchild. I'm not really into education, but I have all these different things that I'm dealing with that is a little different than what our challenges our teachers face on a daily basis. But it all impacts the learning environment for the students and the staff.
Thank you. Yeah, we couldn't teach kids without functional buildings. So
Right.
thank you for
No.
everything that you do for that. And thanks for the update. That was helpful. I think especially with new board members, like not having been a part of many of these previous updates. So thank you so much for the high level, just kind of summary. It sounds like it's going to be a really big, busy week next
It's going
week.
to be a busy week, and it's going to be, construction is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yes,
So
always.
it's going to be a busy next 4 years.
Yes.
And I'll work with Devin and Dr. Weber about, what, the frequency of updates and what the board would like to see in, any future information.
Sounds great. This was super helpful.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And Steve likes to downplay his role in the success of our district. I won't allow him to walk away doing that. I have the privilege of being in so many meetings with Steve, and what this man knows and his fierce advocacy for our district and our kids of getting them the best. A couple of years ago, he saved me from what I thought might be a good decision that was a bad decision, and I appreciate that. And the fact is, Steve, your importance in this district is far more than you give yourself credit for. We ask you to work with half of the bond money of surrounding districts for the same when we go out for a bond, which means that every single margin is by a factor of 2 times tighter than other districts around us. What you're able to do, frankly, in the team is amazing. However, as I'd mentioned about kitchens earlier and mentioned changing HVAC at Meads from 1975, there was an original piece in there, or the air handling units, so you correct me, I forget which one. Really, the work you do is exceptional. And I just want to look you in the eye and say thank you. I know, Devin, you're up next.
All right, keeping this infrastructure and buildings and maintenance train going, we're going to talk about sinking fund. I know all of you remember the last slide of my January 21st presentation where I talked about timelines. In that slide, we talked about the sinking fund. I know this is kind of a long time coming. It expires in December of this year. And so April 15th, Cal, we will powwow and talk about that and how we're going to address this upcoming deadline. So just a quick update there.
And sinking funds are typically, they can go 5 years or 10 years. I believe we are currently on a 10-year cycle. Also, for the board, new or just folks who want more information, feel free to reach out or just do your own kind of search on sinking funds and how those work. But I think I would argue an essential aspect of a high-functioning district. So thank you for that, and we'll look forward to that presentation. And President McIntyre, that's what I have for you tonight.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Super helpful. All right. So then I guess this is our first opportunity for public comment. Any blue cards? No? Okay. All right. Then we'll move ahead to no public comment, and we'll move ahead to questions and comments from board members. Oh, sorry. I missed that. Added agenda. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's on the, yeah, there we go. Added agenda items. Do we have any? Okay. Thank you. All right. Second opportunity for public comment. Anybody going once, going twice? Do you want to come up and, anything that you'd like to tell us? All right. Thank you. I guess the next one is questions and comments from board members. Anybody have anything?
So I had the most fun this weekend. My son is taking Mr. Pack's CAD class in the PLTW courses at the high school. And it's a full semester class. And the first semester, they spend a lot of time they're building an underwater robot. And so I kept saying, why do you have a wet bathing suit? What is going on here? And they were having to test their underwater robots in the school pool. And if it wasn't working, somebody had to jump in and get it. And so
You
they were taking
volunteered.
turns, like being the one that had to bring a swimsuit and jump in and fish out their robot. And so this past weekend was the culmination of this, and they were at University of Michigan, and it was a regional sea perch competition. It blew my mind. It was very cool. So Mr. Pack was there, and he had it was optional. Kids could decide if they wanted to participate. So there were 4 teams that came and brought their robots and had to go through these obstacle courses, and it was just so much fun. And what an amazing opportunity our students have here, that they could play underwater robotics soccer. And the Northville team advanced to the semifinals and then got knocked out, I think, unfairly. But,
I like that bias.
that's just my opinion on that.
I think
So
you're right. Seems like it was unfairly.
it was very fun. And for anyone out there who has kids that are, looking at the giant course catalog for the high school, those PLTW classes are an amazing opportunity. I mean, for the fact that our high schoolers can get out of high school with a knowledge of CAD, which I just think is huge. It's so huge.
ELT stands for those in the audience.
Project Lead the Way. And yeah. And they can also, once they take these intro to engineering and all the other classes, they can get college credit. They can apply for college credit for those classes too. So really awesome.
Yeah. Love that.
I have one small announcement. Cook School is having a job fair tomorrow, 5:30 to 7 at Cook. We're looking for some paras. So if anybody knows any paras or special educators, come check us out at Cook.
Yeah, it's a happening place.
It is. I love it.
Let's see, Dr. Weber and I met on Monday, and we just had our check-in about the quarterly goal check-in and had a lovely conversation. And so thank you for that, Dr. Weber.
Appreciate the feedback from the 7 of you.
Growth
Thank you.
mindset. Growth mindset.
Growth
That's where we're at.
mindset.
Yeah. And then, I just kind of wanted to underscore just our continuous improvement as a district that we saw exemplified tonight. And I think from my perspective, as we look to continue to attract great students and great families to Northville, I got a call from, just as a friend from a realtor friend asking, hey, do you know of any homes that someone could move into, that the family really wants to move to Northville? So I just love getting those calls, and really what you guys are demonstrating as educators is why Northville is so awesome, and what kind of an amazing academic opportunity kids get, and an enriched experience from all of the things that we've talked about tonight. So I'm excited. I know that change is hard when people talk about a different website or, kind of unifying our logo or kind of our, outward facing presentation as a district. I know those are kind of growing pains and it's difficult, but I also am really excited and am grateful for the community involvement to have had that opportunity myself to join one of those breakout groups, but also really I'm so grateful for, toward the staff for their willingness to participate and be so open in what they see as working and not working. And also for parents and our Colt team and everybody's involvement, that it can be kind of scary to jump into that. But I just think it's really part of our continuous improvement that we expect of ourselves and expect of our community, and our community expects of us. I also wanted to remind people that part of that communications subcommittee group also focused on what ways could we make what we talk about at the board table more accessible to the community. So we have added that public-facing presentation and some of the supporting documents that are attached to our board agendas to our website. It can't have all of the information because there's certainly some privacy things that we need to protect our students and protect our community. But as far as, the pertinent information, that is available after our meetings.
Well, not only that, but, I think that anybody that wants to look at our check registries, those are, those are publicly available also. And we are very sensitive to the fact that we have an obligation to the taxpayers in this community. And I would expect that people would be curious about what kinds of money flows we have month to month. And, so that's another effort, I think, at transparency, so they can understand.
I also appreciate, Mr. Kling, that you told me about a meeting that you attended with the Wayne County Business Office group, and talking about just ongoing continuous improvement, like things that maybe we've had in practice as a public school or other public schools also are doing. Just we continue to revise, like what are we doing in the way that protects us from fraud and protects our privacy and really protects our district, because we are responsible for the financial success of our district. So really appreciate all that continuous monitoring of that. Just wanted to raise that for the board awareness.
Thank you. Important points.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
So the NHS IB Art Fair is open today at 6:30. It's at the Art House. It's starts today and it runs through March 29th. It's they're open Tuesday through Saturday, so they're closed Sunday and Monday. So get over there and check that out. I think Tony Koski said that all the work is in the Mustang Trail this week. So if you can't make it there, you can check out everything that's there online. And then the other thing, I just want to give a shout out. I went to the on Friday at the high school. They had the drama club had their Untalent show, and it was fabulous. It was very creative. It was 100% student organized. They threw it all together pretty quick, and it was just fabulous. I loved it. And just a shout out to a couple of our teachers that came in and they were judging for the competition. So Stacy Katikos, she seems to be everywhere. So huge thanks to her. And then a couple of our student teachers. We had Alexa Kiefer and Lauren Mauser. They were also judging. And so the winning performers, so the money that they raised for it was going to go to a charity of the winner's choice. So the charity was, what was the name of it? But it was it's the Kiefer Foundation. It was founded by it's the Kiefer family, which is Alexa's, and it's to deal with raise awareness for distracted driving.
Oh,
so I didn't hear how much they raised for it, but it was a good event.
That's great.
There's quite an expansion of interest in drama and theater in this district, starting at the elementary level. So there's a wave of interest that's going to wash all the way through to the high school, which I think will make it exciting, even more exciting than it already is, to have those kids that want to act. And
I think I saw too that Marquee Theater is doing their summer camps this year, which is awesome. I'm excited to see that coming back.
Aren't we lucky?
We are lucky. Yeah. Thank you for being
produce all the musicals at Bloomfield Hills High School. So I'm very excited to hear about this increase in interest in drama.
That's right. Winchester's got a drama. And we have a parent at Ammerman that was going to talk to that person and get nurtured along by the high school leaders. And so that richness is spreading.
Yeah. At Winchester, it's a hugely successful and popular program. We have the upper L and lower L. Lower L filled up in 6 minutes. And they do have the high school drama students come and help with the kids. So it's really neat to see them work together.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we have parents, anything that goes on at the elementary school is really has got to be carried by a parent. And we have parents that are just into being the sponsors for.
I love it.
I don't know what their parent background is, but maybe it's just their hearts are into supporting the arts, and theater is one of them. So
awesome.
It's really wonderful.
Cool. All right. I think that is our agenda for the evening. So thank you, everybody. And I will call us adjourned at 9:23.
thank you.
I mean, I dropped it on
Have
the
a good
floor
week.
earlier, so.
Unsolicited